It's been a long week, right? Are you ready to wind down? Why not? It's time for the Wine Time Fridays podcast with Shelley and Phil. Neither are sommeliers, but both have a deep passion for life, each other, and of course, delicious wine. And now, here to talk about this week over a glass of wine is Shelley and Phil. It's wine time.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil on this Friday, August 4th, episode 172. Shelley, you have the wine bell right there. Let's just go ahead and do it. Happy Friday. It's wine time.
But you never hear it, so I don't know why we keep doing this.
No, we do hear it because sometimes we cheat and we put in a little bell file in there. Today we are starting the second month of Washington Wine Month because Washington wines get 2 wine months.
So good they have to have 2 months.
They're so good they have to have 2. They have March, which we kind of didn't do, and now August. We've done Oregon Wine Month in May, and we just finished up a month ago of Idaho Wine Month in June. Took a break, a month, kind of a little time off. And now we're back at it. We're going to learn about Red Mountain this month. And it's fantastic because I know very little about Red Mountain, which is apropos because it's a very little AVA. So with us today, we have Charlie Hoppus with Fidélitas. Charlie, welcome to Wine Time Fridays.
It's great to be here.
All right, let's start drinking. No.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. We always like to have a little wine in our glass as we're starting the introductions and getting into a rhythm. So I'm going to go ahead and open this first one that we have, which is your Optu white. You want to tell us a little bit about this?
Well, so all of our wines are Bordeaux varieties. So in this wine in particular, it's Sauvignon Blanc and Sémillon blended. And so we make this sort of in a traditional Bordeaux white method, in that it's barrel fermented and then aged not too long. We just, for our style in particular, we're trying to, capture the sort of fruitiness that we get and not overwhelm it with a lot of oak. And so that's what we try to do. And it's kind of the perfect time of the year to have a wine like this because who likes to drink, white wine in, when it, yeah, but it works really well now. And, it's kind of hard to find white grapes. In fact, on Red Mountain, there's probably less than 5% of the production on Red Mountain is white grapes because it's so, they do such a great job with reds and we're known for that. That's really hard to get people to plant white grapes because you got a vineyard. What are you going to do? You're going to probably plant Cabernet or
you said 5%.
5%, less than 5%.
There's a wine that we've had down in Napa, Massican, and they are doing primarily these off the beaten paths Italian whites because who else is doing whites in Napa? But they're doing them so well, and you can carve your niche if you know what you're doing and do that. Let's toast this up to health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, romance,
and peace on earth.
That's right.
And welcome.
And welcome, Shelley. This seems like the perfect temperature. Charlie basically just got here 10 minutes before we hit record. And he drove all the way over to do this, staying in Coeur d'Alene tonight, and then driving back tomorrow. So thank you for that, Charlie. That was fantastic. But sometimes we drink these white wines a little too cold. And this one seems like perfect temp to get all the nuances, isn't it?
Yeah. There's an old saying in winemaking that if you're trying to hide flaws, you chill it. And
yeah,
we don't have anything to hide with this one.
No, or put it on heavy oak.
Yeah.
That's delicious.
It's kind of that time of year. It's hard to keep, the temperature's ideal. So I brought my little Yeti cooler, as you saw, and I had some.
It's fantastic. So today is not only August 4th and episode 172, it's also National White Wine Day, which we always have white wine. Every day seems to be, but this
Even in December.
even in December, yeah, we're although Shelley will say she doesn't really feel like a red all the time in the summer, but if we're inside, you don't really want a heavy red when you're out enjoying the sun, and
Yeah,
likewise, you don't really want a cold chilled wine when you're out in the snow.
yeah, and it all depends on, for me, it's all, cuisine, and I run into so many people that are, well, I just, I don't drink white wine. But there's a whole world you're missing out
Yeah,
there.
you go ahead,
Really.
you don't drink your white wine and leave. It's more for us.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
you get those people like, oh no, I'll start with the reds. Like, really?
Yeah, that's fine. Again, we had this conversation about a month ago with Ethan Lillis of the Culinary Stone, and it was interesting because we really pounded at that episode of you should drink what you like. Don't have someone tell you what you should and shouldn't like. With that said, try new things, open your mind.
And you're still gonna have an evolution. You'll evolve in what you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So anyway, it's
Let's go back to food, and see, we still have a huge, restaurant following for our wines in especially in the Seattle area.
oh wow, nice.
You need a white wine with a lot of the cuisine that
Mhm.
people are eating in restaurants in Seattle.
Yeah, down
A
on
lot of seafood.
Elliott's Seafood and Oyster House. I'm sure that they have some Fidélitas
Yeah,
down there. Used to know all the people down there, don't know them anymore. Don't know the Brooklyn's got a huge oyster bar there. And so yeah, this is perfect for shellfish. Yeah.
perfect. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's exactly what I have in mind yeah.
What are the percentages of the Sauvignon and the?
I think it's about 50, I want to say 55% Sauvignon Blanc, 45% Semillon. And then of course we also make 100% Sauvignon Blanc and 100% Semillon as well now. So we actually make quite a few different white wines because we just find if we kind of release them one at a time, different times of the year, people sort of wait for them and, and grab them. And just like you guys said, white wine's a big part of a lot of our wine club members, sellers and what they drink almost daily. So
Well, you brought up the wine club. We should talk about that real quick because we've done a lot of episodes. We did a big series, still have a couple more to do on wine clubs. And every winery has a little different club.
yeah.
And wine bars and bottle shops have a little different club. What is your wine club like?
Well, I'll just kind of say we're 90%, what I say direct to consumer focused.
Mhm.
So 90% of the wines that we make either go
No.
out our retail door from somebody that just walks in the door.
What's the percentage again?
It's 90% of our
That's a
wine
very
that we sell and we produce. So or goes to our wine club members.
Gotcha.
So we have almost 3,000 wine club members. So this, started years ago where we started, probably I want to say early in our history, early 2003 or 4 maybe at the latest.
Yeah.
Where we started. We still have some of those members too, where they signed up, and then it's evolved since then. But especially as time went on and, our model changed where we didn't want to sell so much wine across the country to a distributor. We wanted more control of it ourselves.
Sure.
So that's when we just said, hey, let's just do this and become that much more focused and really incentivize people working at our tasting rooms to get people to sign up and then create products that were unique for them. So they're not going, every place that they see us, that's in my wine shipment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we want something unique for them, different.
There should be a privilege. In a sense, it's like what Shelley and I talk about when we're talking to clients. You want to build your email list, and that email list should come with benefits that nobody else gets.
Oh, yeah,
You know,
definitely.
and your wine club members should have benefits that the general public, although you love them, you're not going to get some of these benefits. You're not going to get the free flights or the, you know, the discounts or
Yeah.
this
Special
library wine that we decided to
Yeah.
throw in on this month. Or this,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly
you know?
right. So, I
So,
mean, we have different levels of club. We have even a club where we have a club for just out of town members, so that we only ship a couple times a year. So we obviously can't ship this time of year, so we do like double shipments in the fall and in the spring, so that we don't compromise the wine in a shipment at all. So
yeah, it's tough. It's interesting because this month we've got lined up a couple other Red Mountain wineries, and as talking to them about getting wine shipped. At the time, the temps hadn't gotten too bad, and we're only talking like overnight, and they're probably shipped in the middle of the night, so we're probably okay. But it's those longer ship days
Yeah,
and you're in a truck that's 110 degrees. It is.
yeah, you lose control over the environment the wine's gonna be in, and
Well, it's one
That's
of the
just the
things
worst.
too, when you make the decision from wanting to control, now you do have distributorship, but when you say 90% of your wines are sold out the door and to your wine club members, that's an unbelievable number. That's a real blessing. But
that's a lot of, that's 20 years of hard work.
It sure is. But you're shipping all that stuff, right? It's with
Yeah.
a distributor. You give it to them and they do all of that stuff. So there's pros and cons to both
Yeah.
for sure.
No, I mean, you do need distribution, they can provide, that restaurant. Wines in a restaurant where that's a perfect setting for people to try your wines for the first time, and you need their presence, and we do really great with our distribution in the Northwest in particular, and we're trying to expand out a little bit as we're trying to grow Fidélitas a little bit.
Yeah. We do
What is-
have a
What
dump
is your
glass.
production per year?
Right now it's about 15,000 cases for Fidélitas.
Oh, wow.
That's a good number.
Yeah, it's a pretty good number. It's taken us a long time to kind of get there. And remember, that's 100% Red Mountain only.
Yeah.
Right.
We do have a dump glass. I put it more closer to you guys than to me. But I know the way these episodes will go. And so Shelley, I'm going to try to move us along.
All right, good.
Huh? Pretty
Good job, good job.
Thank you. It hasn't happened yet, but I am
No.
going to try. So we're going to now open this Sémillon. We actually, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 sponsors today. So we're going to take a quick break while I'm opening this Sémillon and hear from one of them now. Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays with Shelley and Phil, episode 172 on this Friday, August 4th. We're sitting here with Charlie Hoppus of Fidélitas. Did I pronounce that right? Is it
Yeah.
Fidélitas?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Make
And was
sure.
that your father's middle name?
it's my father-in-law's middle name, and he is second generation, and now that name continues on into a fourth generation.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know if it's continued beyond that.
My name's not going on.
Their name's,
The Anderson name will die.
yeah,
I have no sons.
Mm.
Now, I'm sure there's Andersons out there.
I'm
so.
sure there's a lot of them.
I have a son right there.
Oh, actually,
He's now
he
with
is with you.
Yeah, he's kind
Yeah.
of running the show. He's trying to get a hold of me right now, but
Oh, is that
I can
right?
talk.
We're not doing rinse pours on this. We can certainly do a rinse pour when we go to red. This is 100% Sémillon. I got a nice long mic. I can walk right over here and do this. There we go. Beautiful. Line them up.
So we were talking about Kiona a little before, wasn't it? Kiona's Lemberger days that you either like found that you wanted to get property on Red Mountain or something like that. There's something about Kiona and Lemberger days.
Well, yeah, so I know the exact day that I saw the light kind of went off for us and wanting to wanted to think about being on Red Mountain. It was actually June 11, 1989.
Do you know the time?
Well, the tasting was in the afternoon.
So we got between noon and 6.
But I could, let me finish the story. You'll know why I remember the exact date. So we were there and I was working for Snoqualmie at the time. Mike Janik had hired me at Snoqualmie right out of school at Davis. He said, they're having this Lemberger days. We make Lemberger. Why don't you go there and pour? It's on a Saturday. And I said, okay, I'll do it. So I can remember going there and pouring Lemberger, and Don Mercer was there, and he was given the history of Lemberger, and at one time they thought it was a variety that could withstand the weather in Washington. So that's why they, Dr. Clore at Washington State thought, this is something we need to, explore because it really can stand the cold weather. So anyway, I participated in it, but at the same time, Kiona was there. They had a tasting room in the bottom of the house, John and Ann Williams at the time. That's where they lived. They had their barrel room and tasting room in the basement. I went down with Scott and John, and we tasted through some of their barrels that they had there. And I can just remember thinking, wow, tasting Cabernet. No, it had to be 86, 87 vintage, something like that. And I'm thinking, wow, this is amazing. Maybe someday I could, maybe buy some land, plant a vineyard, and be back there on Red Mountain. Well, the end of the day happened. We went out for pizza. On the way home from pizza, my wife went into labor, and we had our daughter before midnight of that night. And that's how I always remember that exact day, because that's her birthday.
Yeah,
that's
don't forget that.
No, I always remember it. So,
and it's probably better that you remember her birthday and also the day of the Lemberger.
Yeah, I know.
Instead of
people always ask me, so what's that moment you knew when you wanted to be on Red Mountain? Well, for me, that was it. And I just happen to have a story that helps me remember,
which is
that.
perfect.
Yeah.
Let's toast this up. 100% Semillon, 2021.
I think this might be 2020.
Let's
brought an older
check.
vintage.
2020. No, sorry, that was the other one. You are correct. 2020.
Yeah.
Hashtag cheersing.
Cheersing.
Can you tell her on social media? Hashtags.
Semillon is my favorite white wine. I've made it since I got to making wine in Washington in the late 80s, and I think it's just so unique to Washington. I mean, and very few people make it, and they don't know very much about it. But I just think it's just wonderful.
Anytime we can get people away from Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc, not that they're bad wines, it's just that like Cabernet Sauvignon.
Yeah.
Anytime we can help usher in
A new experience.
yeah, and
And it's
this
not too acidic. Semillon is nice and
Yeah.
light. Well, light, but also not so acidic. So
Yeah, it's got a nice full body
I
to
was
it.
gonna say I might embarrass myself, but I'm getting a little oak on this. Is it a neutral oak or anything?
These are all neutral oak.
Okay.
I try to put things in oak so that you get kind of a nice viscosity from the oak itself, but I don't want oak to be noticeable.
Right,
in
that
this.
neutral oak will give it some depth without overbearing, right?
Yeah, and so, oftentimes in our tasting room, when we do a flight and we have a Semillon, people are like, oh, okay, I'll try it. And then they usually just love it. They'll buy some, once you can get it in the glass.
Exactly. Shelley, I'm gonna bring up a sports reference.
okay.
So these coaches, like in the NFL, Bill Walsh and Bill Belichick and even like Mike Holmgren to a degree and whatnot, you've got these guys that spawn other coaches. So there's this coaching tree, right?
Oh yeah.
It's kind of the same in
I know
the
what
wine
you
business. Yes. So thank you. That's what 22 years of being together will do. Mike Janowick is a name in the wine world in Washington.
I don't
Yes,
think you said it correctly.
Janik,
I always say Janowick. I used to say Kiona, now it's Kiona.
yeah,
I used to say Frechette, but now I know it's Frechette. So Janik,
correct.
Mike Janik. I might pull all of that out so I don't embarrass myself, but we'll see. You worked under Mike.
Mike hired me right out of Davis. And Mike was a Davis grad, 3 or 4 vintages before me. Winemaker's talking vintage.
Vintages. I like that better.
That's
So-
awesome.
So he hired me right out of Davis. And I worked my first vintage for him in 1988.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so interesting now. And then we worked together. I worked for him, and then we worked actually together when we first started our labels. You know, I went to make Three Rivers Winery in Walla Walla, and he
Right.
started his own label. Then I started mine the year after he did. And now actually our sons are best of friends.
That's,
Oh, wow.
I just think that it's so cool.
Yeah.
It really is.
Actually, Andrew Janik officiated at my son Will's wedding
Nice.
in February this year.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's that goes way back, you know. This is now coming up on my 36th vintage.
Yeah.
And I think Andrew he's the same age as my daughter, so he was born in like 87.
Well, this
So-
begs the question.
Yeah.
What was in the celebratory glass at the wedding reception?
Well, a lot of champagne for sure, but I want to say our estate Cabernet, you know, kind of something that we're really proud of. And but we had other wines too, not just our own, but was fun. Very small ceremony,
Mhm.
very small dinner at a restaurant in Seattle. So it was
Oh, what was the restaurant? I have to know. I'm a Seattle guy, so
Spinas.
I have no idea.
Yeah, Capitol Hill Italian restaurant. Yeah.
Must be new.
It must be new. I don't even know. I think Capitol Hill has really evolved a lot over the
Oh,
last
yeah.
6 or
Yeah.
7 years. Interesting. I thought I had all my things turned off on my phone. As long as we'll keep recording, we're good. So I lost my train of thought.
Mike Janik, and then
Yeah, so
you were gonna talk about.
Well, the coaching tree kind of.
yeah, because there's Chateau Saint Michelle is involved in this.
Yeah,
They
Antonori's.
Antonori, yeah,
Yeah.
and now you have a consulting thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in your life, and I can call Charlie and he answers the phone, probably because he doesn't know it's me, but I nonetheless.
no, I try to, if it doesn't come up as spam, I'll try to pick it up because you never know anymore.
Still have a Seattle area code, so
Yeah, that helps.
yeah, it doesn't hurt. But yeah, so you helped start Canoe Ridge.
Right.
Now that's a Chateau Saint Michelle property, which is now Chateau Saint Michelle was bought by, it's not Constellation. Who bought Chateau Saint Michelle?
I can't quite remember the name myself,
Yeah.
but it's a company, it's not venture capital, but
Right.
they came in and purchased it not that long ago. So yeah, no, I started with Mike in '88, and then we were with Snoqualmie, Langoose, Saddle Mountain in the late '80s, and then in 1990, Mike took actually I left and went to Waterbrook down in Walla Walla,
And
Mike
that's
took,
another one.
Yeah.
I know.
and then Mike took the head job at San Michelle, and then immediately asked me if I would join him. Well, it was kind of like going into harvest, so I finished harvest and then joined him in October of 1990 in Woodinville. And so I worked in Woodinville for the 90 through the 92 vintage. And then they built a brand new facility in 93, Canoe Ridge.
Hmm.
And then I went over and became the head red winemaker. and kind of built a building and started it and, worked there through the 98 vintage.
So the Merlot was really important vintage back then.
Yeah,
You had Indian Wells, Canoe Ridge, Merlot.
definitely. Those were some of the first vineyard designated red wines in Washington, really. The 93, I remember
Yeah.
those were really, really special wines, and sort of, that's kind of, I think, sort of when the light went on that we could, before then we were making 80-90% white wines.
Isn't that,
Yeah.
Johannesburg Riesling and things
Yeah,
like that?
and-
That was like.
Yeah, and you'd have,
gateway wine.
dry Riesling, sweet Riesling, and 4 styles of Riesling, and 2 Sauvignon Blancs, and Chenin Gewürztraminer.
Wow,
But I think you could sort of start to see then that the potential that we had.
yeah,
And then when we invested money in facilities and, more grapes, and just got a better handle on how to grow things, and then things really just took off after that.
that's so fun.
So we're not seeing a lot of Limburger then, so did they decide that it really wasn't that great?
No, we started to get that feeling like, oh, we know how to overwinter, grapes, and we know better places to plant grapes and how to handle things. And we would still get those catastrophic vintages where we'd get really, low temperatures, and we'd lose 50% of our grapes. But then
Wow.
at a place like Canoe Ridge on the river, we wouldn't, because it was so moderate. The
Right,
influence
the
of the
river
river.
helps
Yeah.
keep it cool in the summer and warmer in the winter.
Yeah.
Do you do any of I bring this up off and on all the time in our episodes about burying the cane on some of these areas that can get these really hard freezes. And by hard freeze, I mean, something 10-15 degrees for a period of time, not just like this overnight thing that drops and comes back up, but actually 3, 4, 5 days or a week, and you can lose the whole vine and then have to rip it all out and plant, or you can bury the cane and you lose maybe a couple, 3 years. That's
We don't currently at our location on Red Mountain. You can even see when you come to Red Mountain, you can see the level where the cold air sits, and we're sort of above that sort of frost cool line,
gotcha.
where the really cold air would sit in
Right.
those pockets. I've yet, knock on wood, I've yet to sort of experience that
Hopefully this is
happening on Red Mountain.
Yeah.
We've had years where we thought that we really got devastated, and that we lost 50% of our buds. And
then
it came back,
the
and
leaves were pushing in
yeah.
spring like they do every year, and
Yeah, so, and I work with, on our estate vineyard, we work with Dick Boucher. He
mhm,
manages our vineyard there, and his crew, and gosh, the guy's been growing grapes in Washington since, I think 84, 85, something
Yeah.
like that. So, we just rely on him so much. He steers us in the right direction for sure.
well, I want to know when we come back what makes Red Mountain so special, because we are going into red wines
Mhm.
in just a moment. Yeah.
He thinks I work for him now, but I kind of do, but it's like we just start a company.
Oh, and I just
And-
started recording again, so we'll put that on the front end.
No, it's great to have him, and
How special is that to be able to work? with
well,
you?
it's something I always wanted to do.
Yeah,
You think about, I started this, I've seen it grow. So what did I do all this for? To sell to somebody else? I wanted it to be a multi-generational business.
sure. That's,
And you can only hope they like it,
Yeah,
because you can't really tell them.
no, and it took a while. But then once the light went on, he was like, oh yeah, but he was actually working at a bank down in Portland, and just kind of saw these, small businesses come in, and he was helping manage their money. And then all of a sudden he's like, I think, why wouldn't I want to do this? So we put him to work in the tasting room, and then he's just evolved. And then now probably 3 to 4 years
Yeah.
later, we just said, yeah, you're in charge.
Drew Bloodsoe's
Right.
son went and worked somewhere else and now has come.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it's kind of.
Which one?
I have no idea. I
If
try
one
not
of them went to Cal Poly,
Mhm.
Yeah, it is.
yeah, it's probably that son.
Yeah.
It's so interesting you bring that up because I was just with Damon Heward. Ever?
Mhm.
So we had an apple cup.
We had both. of
Oh,
them.
okay.
We had both of them
Yeah.
on and tasted through
Well,
all their wines.
He was just telling me, I just saw him this last weekend. We did a tasting together up on Road Charver. And he said his son is taking a class in wine viticulture. Heck, he's at Cal Poly now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ah.
So there's always that hope, like, well, maybe he'll think about it.
Which Cal Poly? San Luis Obispo?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's funny because and we are back because I can't let that go. Real quick. There we are. We are back here and we've just been talking, but a little bit about the apple cup episode that we did. On that episode, we had Damon, who's the Husky. I'm a Husky fan. Drew, who's the lone kook on the episode, and Shelley, who's dun 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 dun.
Oh,
Makes
really?
us all want to puke, but a little USC stuff. Drew kept going away whenever we do anything husky or we were on a Zoom call. And he's like, "Oh, Shelley, boom, black screen." It was a lot of fun. We just opened them all back, I believe.
It is.
Yes, 2020 Red Mountain Malbec. I'm going to stand up because I can.
You had a hard time reading that label, I see.
It is dark on dark.
And that's by design.
Let's talk
Really?
about that
Yeah.
because that is a form of branding. I would love to know what went into the decision on the dark on dark.
So I have my younger brother, Lauren, is a partner with me in this business. And Lauren, Lauren is works for Nike, sort of a marketing brand manager type of a person.
Anybody who can make a swoosh into an international known brand has to know a little something.
No, and he brings a great perspective to our business. And at the time we thought, these are all direct onto the bottle too. So you can do things that are different than just a paper label.
Right.
So he said at the time, they had the black on black Air Jordan.
Yeah.
So why not try that on a bottle? And so we did it, and we know you can't see it, but now it's a tradition. And designers look at this and they look at the label and they go, that might be the coolest label I've ever seen.
Well, here's what's interesting. What did I just do? I picked it up and I really brought it. And now you've got a relationship with this bottle of wine.
Yeah.
It is subconscious guerrilla marketing. Really, it
Yeah.
is. Let's toast this up. Hashtag cheersing. It's got beautiful color, by the way.
Yeah, really.
We started making Malbec, I think I want to say with about the 2002 to 2003 vintage.
So early on.
Yeah, so just as I made some at San Michelle, they had a block planted at Canoe Ridge. I had a little experience with it. Why not try it, and
Why not?
and people
Oh,
people like it. It's something different that we do now that not a lot of people do. And in our lineup, this is one of, I want to say 5 in some vintages. So we do that many different Malbecs. We have there's like a serious following of people that buy our wines, drink our wines because of Malbec.
yeah. Interesting.
And I would have never thought that
So
15 years ago.
different vineyards,
Right,
100% Malbec.
right.
Will you blend the vineyards or you?
So
do
this is a
100%?
blend of the vineyards that
Okay,
we're tasting now.
Beautiful. It's got some tannins on it. This you could lay down easy 5 years seemingly.
You could, but it's also one of those wines that seems to be easier to drink when it's young as well. So, and I think that appeals maybe to like a younger demographic in our lineup of wines. And the other thing that I see, and I've thought about this a long time, it's something for a younger wine drinker that maybe their parents didn't have in their cellar.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if they grew up raiding their parents' cellars, like, you know, I don't want the same old Cabernets and Merlot that my mom and dad had. I'm gonna, you know, kind of my own wine.
And again, it doesn't make those others bad. It just is, let's start expanding the palette. You know, I'll tell you, we're huge Carmenere and Cab Franc fans. You don't see them that often. And by the way, they're making some really good ones out of Washington.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So, yeah, we love Jody Elson Cellars making fantastic Malbec,
Mhm.
you know, so
And this is great. I love it.
this is fantastic. This got a
So
little,
then do you
dirty
have
dirt to it.
single vineyard? No, that's all.
We do. We have an estate Malbec. We make one we do a whole lineup of wines from Quintessence Vineyard, just behind Colsolari on Red Mountain.
oh my
And,
gosh.
and we make a Quintessence. Some years we make Canyons, which is owned by Mike Corliss. We'll make a separate one. And you think Red Mountain's small, right?
Mm.
4,040 acres. But, you know, different slope, different soils, different elevation, all contributes to those wines being distinctively different from each other.
Even in that small little
Definitely.
88, but that's all the micro terroir.
Right, right.
You know, and we're getting super nerdy right now, but it really is. You know, when we talk about wild yeast and things like that, that get captured and put into a certain beer that's right there,
Mhm.
that's going to taste different than one that's a mile away because of that wild fermentation and wild yeast that comes in. I meant wild yeast, not wild. I screwed it up. I'm just,
I don't know what you're saying.
you rarely do.
You're just talking about the terroir.
But there, yes, everything can get, you have the broad terroir,
Mhm.
but you can, I guess, terroir down to that micro.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
there's like, I call it micro terroir, which is actually in the vine itself. This is more like, I call it meso terroirs. So little regions within the appellation.
Mm.
So in other words, if I'm looking at Heart of the Hill, Kiona Vineyard, Malbec, it's planted east-west, where Quintessence was north-south.
Mm.
And at a different elevation, different soil type. So those, I think, make huge differences. And so we have this kind of a loyal following of people that just, I think they like our wines mainly because of Malbec.
Yeah, and that's a part of not putting all your eggs in one basket, right? You have to like,
It's not something I can say that we planned for.
sure.
But, sometimes in this kind of a business, things just evolve and happen. And
Exactly.
so sometimes, if you're smart, you'll jump on something and go with it.
Yep.
It's best not to have tunnel vision, to keep
Yeah.
that vision wide for those opportunities that present themselves that you never did plan for.
Right.
So what do you think the differences are between an Argentinian Malbec and a Washington?
Look at you, Shelley. That's a great question.
Well, for us, especially on Red Mountain,
Mhm.
we're getting like with Malbec, I think you could get different levels of like spice and pepper, and if you get to a cooler site, even on Red Mountain, those become more pronounced.
Mhm.
And I think and to go back to what the differences is, Argentinians talk a lot about elevation, and so when you get at different elevations, I think it becomes more of a struggle to grow. And so you get more concentrated grapes, I think. And I think that can be the difference. I will say, and this is my own opinion, I think
Can't have another person's opinion.
but I say this with all due respect to Argentinian Malbec, is
Right.
most Malbecs we taste from Argentina, in this country are the cheap junk that they export, and you never taste the great stuff.
Right.
Like we would never export some of the best wines we make,
That's true.
so that's what I think what happens sometimes with people that come in and go, oh, I've had Malbec, and then they'll taste ours. This
Doesn't taste like Malbec.
Well, no, because I bet your experiences with Argentinian Malbec, and they'll say, yeah, and it's like, well, I bought it at, Trader Joe's, no offense, but Trader Joe's for, $10,
Well, I know that, that theory of you keep all the good, that's great in the wine industry. I don't think that happened in the apple industry in Washington.
No,
for
it doesn't
years.
with the strawberries too. They always.
Yeah, there's some of the good
Excellent.
stuff.
Yeah, same with cherries,
Yeah.
the Japanese have their trees that they insist on taking,
Yeah, so I know a whole bunch of orchards that were ripped out in around Chelan and all that to replace them with vineyards.
Yep.
So
So we didn't ask about price points on these, so. They do know offhand.
I think that now that the Optu white is 40. The Malbec is 50. I honestly am not sure about the Semillon. I'm gonna say 40. I'm gonna say 40 on it.
Okay.
we'll look those up too.
The Red Mountain Cabernet is 50, and then the Optu Red is 60.
Okay.
Suggested retail.
Yep,
prices.
yep.
Can people buy off your website?
They can.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we have a great website. They can download any of the fact sheets on any wine off our website. You can actually join
Thank you
our
for
wine
that.
club off the website.
Yeah,
Good.
So we have we spend time and effort in making the website, functional.
User friendly.
Yes.
well, go figure. Keep the friction low, right? Thank you for putting the tasting notes and text sheets up on the website. It's a big, it's a lot of labor to do that.
Yeah.
But as a consumer and as a producer of a wine podcast, when wineries do that, that makes things so much easier because we don't have to ask for it. And some of this information is then presented to us so we know how to decipher it a little bit better. So
The other thing that we've done since COVID is we create a fact sheet, video fact sheet for every single wine. And I thought, well, once COVID's over, we probably won't do those anymore. We have a loyal following on our YouTube channel of people that just get on there and they just love listening to those. I mean, they're 3 or 4 minutes at the most.
we will be putting a link to the Fidélitas YouTube channel because that is something every winery
They do
should
like
do.
it. They do like it. And it's so interesting because we don't talk about what we're gonna say beforehand. We really just sit down just like we are right now. And we
Yeah.
my son and I interacting, and he'll introduce the wine and he'll ask me what I think. And, he'll maybe get a little nerdy on what the barrel composition is or something on it. But I'm just surprised. I'll see people time and time again. I'll run into them in the tasting room. They'll go, I love the videos. I'm like, oh, really? Okay.
And good job for making them 3 to 4 minutes because those are nice little bite-sized nuggets that people. I'll tell you this. I will probably, when I'm opening a Fidélitas down the road, we'll pour it and we'll go and find that on your channel and taste along with you.
Yeah.
Honestly, that is a lot of fun to
It
do.
helps people because when you talk about the wine, then they're like, oh, that's what I'm tasting. Now I know when I look at another wine.
Yeah, and there's just a little more depth of information, because another Red Mountain Malbec. Well, no, it's not. This is from Canyon's Vineyard, or this is from Quintessence. I mean,
Yeah,
really get into a lot of detail and depth.
I think that's fantastic. I highly
Okay,
Endorse.
endorse.
keep doing it.
you
We'll keep
yeah,
doing it.
definitely
it's
keep doing
it's a
that.
little bit of work, but we
Oh,
find
yeah, I
ways
know
to
that.
do it. So
Yep, exactly. Breaking away from wine a little bit, we have a couple of things we really need to talk about. And I'll forget if we don't.
Okay.
Tomorrow's Brewery Olympics
Oh,
at
okay.
Outpost Brewery.
Mhm.
The 4th annual Rotary on the Rocks Brewery Olympics
And root beer Olympic.
and Root Beer Olympics.
Now it's
Yes,
family friendly.
it's family friendly, and the kids showed up, the adults last year, and so now we're like, hey, you earned the right for root
To
beer.
compete.
Every game, Olympic game, you can play while holding a drink. Not necessary to do, but we have a lot of fun. That's tomorrow from 3 to 6 at Outpost Brewery. We are recording this from the business zone
Mhm.
in Hayden.
Yes.
grand opening is the 10th, which is in 6 days. It's next Thursday, all day. It's like from 10
All
to
day.
6. Yeah. If you go
With
to that,
some
you might even
ribbon
see Shelley.
cuttings.
Several ribbon cuttings. You might actually see Shelley and Phil present about social media for 10 whole minutes. We're going to take all there is to know about social media and compress it into 10 minutes. And there's one other thing. On the 11th, there's something, I forget what it is. Yep, I forget. Edit. But those are two big things, and we wanted to make sure we mentioned those. Okay, here we go, Charlie. What does make Red Mountain so special?
Well, we talk about some unique characteristics, and we've kind of come up with these as a group, as an AVA. And then so that we're all kind of talking about things that are consistent, you know, that we feel contribute to the great wines of Red Mountain. So we talk about slope. You know, for the most part, if you come to Red Mountain and you start at the bottom of the hill, there's a constant, you know, slope, you know, nice southern slope to the mountain. Now, that isn't perfect everywhere on the mountain, because there's some, you know, there's some sort of west aspect and even east aspect to some corners of the AVA, but we think that almost serves as almost like a little bit of a solar panel right there. So it just, because of that, you know, it just happens to be the warmest or next to the warmest AVA in heat units consistently every vintage. And so what that enables us to do is to consistently, you know, ripen Cabernet even in the coolest of vintages. So that's really important. So aspect. We talk a lot about, you know, these soils. You know, I think if you taste a lot of Red Mountain wines, you could I say you can taste the soil in the wine. There's this little bit of a dustiness, especially in bigger Cabernets.
And I was going to say, I'm getting that a little bit.
Maybe a little bit, not so much in the Malbec, but when you taste it in some of the big Cabernets, there's this sort of dustiness you get. So we talk about, you know, the aspect, and then the soil definitely, you know, plays a factor. Jim Holmes, one of the founders of growing grapes on Red Mountain, and him and Jim Holmes planted in the mid-70s. You know, when they bring people out, they have to get down, and you know, you lift that soil up, and it's powdery.
Yeah,
and, you know,
interesting.
You can just they really, and I believe this too. That really contributes to you know, what makes Red Mountain unique.
This Malbec has an unbelievable finish. It's longish anyway.
Longish.
But it just keeps kind of just delivering these little bits for about 30-40 seconds. Which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
It's a wine that keeps on giving after you swallow it. I love that. I really do. It's nice.
So I gave you the three.
Yeah.
So heat, aspect,
Slope.
soil. I like to talk a little bit about, and more people are talking about this. I like to talk about the wind, because we get a constant wind on Red Mountain. Even on warm days like this, we'll get a little bit of a breeze late in the day. And I think what it does is it actually kind of roughs the clusters up and makes the skins of the clusters a little thicker, a little tougher. And because of that, thus you see that in the wines.
That makes perfect sense.
It does. And so I talk about the wind being a definite factor, because I mean, it isn't, we try to grow flowers up on Red Mountain. It's hard. They get beat up. You know, they're delicate. And just think about, you know, grapes grow naturally almost everywhere, but they get beat up. It's a tough place.
Well, and then you talk to any nursery who has grown things in the greenhouse and then brings them out. They're telling people the shock They're not ready for it
Yeah.
yet. Those things that have been out and weathered the winter and gone through a little bit of stress.
True.
It's the same thing about, you know, you
Yeah,
don't
that's
always want
exactly
to have
right.
water for the vines. You want those roots to really dig for that water, stress that out a little bit. It produces better fruit. And the wind is going to help produce strong vines and grapes.
True.
It just
then you
makes
get-
sense.
And then you kind of hit on the last one, the need to have irrigation in order for us to even be able to grow anything. But yet being able to control the irrigation so that we're not over irrigating. So like right now, we're at the point in the season where we have enough canopy, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
just cut that off so we're not growing any more canopy, but yet keeping the vine alive, keeping things moving. And really just kind of just focusing on the fruit quality now, not necessarily growing a
Right.
plant.
And so the canopy has done its job.
Correct.
But you don't want to continue to feed it because now you got to feed the fruit.
Right, so now there's the canopy management, so that you can
Right.
get sun on the clusters in the morning, but not necessarily in the afternoon, and that whole.
So
dan-
complicated.
Canopy
kind-
management.
Canopy management, so
That's
there's a little
fan-
bit of a dance that goes on,
Oh,
but
no, this is fantastic. This is.
yeah, so those things I think really they exist everywhere in viticulture, right? But they're what make Red Mountain really unique and different. So,
We have a wine word of the week, but now I'm wanting to do canopy, which we may have done, but we certainly haven't done heat units. That's really, I'm fascinated by this, but we do have a wine word of the week. What is it? Who's it from? Is it Social Web wine word of the week?
I don't know, but it's
It was-
tonally.
It's tonnery.
Tonellery.
Tonnery, thank
Yeah.
you. And there was a reason I chose that. Because you were in, oh boy, I want to say France, but it could have been Italy. One of the pictures on your website.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
France. The first time I went in '95 as a guest of a Cooper, somebody that makes barrels.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sigan Moreau, and I actually showed him how to play baseball in the forest. Yeah,
That's right.
Americans have to,
Well,
Bring
so
this
you go,
forward.
this branch here will make a good bat.
and that's what I did. I brought the brat out, and another American throw me a rock, and these
I mean, right?
South Africans, it's kind of like cricket, but
Well, you don't really want to come back here with a rock, that's for sure. Yeah, that would be
That's
very,
very rock.
that would be painful. So tonnery. Did I say
Yeah.
that right this time?
yes.
Can you explain a little bit about that? I have a definition down, which is probably not right at all. 'Cause
So I mean,
ChatGPT.
I think I looked at it. I think it's right. It's just a barrel maker.
Yeah,
So yeah,
But
they'll
it's
sometimes
arts and
preface the name of their company by, like, there's a company called Tonellery O.
Mm,
But usually it's not used in the formal name, but everybody in the wine biz, at least on the winemaker level, all knows what it means.
Shelley, do you want to read what I put down here?
Sure, it's a French word that refers to a cooperage. Well, I looked it up too, and it was the art and craft of making wooden barrels.
Yeah,
So both of those are okay. So a workshop where barrels are made. Located in wine producing regions, as they are used to make barrels for storing and aging wine and probably whiskey.
yeah. It's one of the things we're trying to do more and more on this.
Educate.
Yeah, it's educate.
Yeah, definitely.
And so sometimes we're educating ourselves as we go forward, but we know having guests on such as yourself, you guys are like in it. And we glean a lot of information off that.
So this is what I think of. I mean, barrels are super important,
Yeah,
and we spend
Yeah.
a lot of time, with wines that we're making have a certain percentage of new wood, mostly French oak.
mhm,
But for me, it's an ingredient that's very important. If you're going to make high-end red wines in particular, you've got to know what you're doing and what to buy. So,
Right.
so we
So what
We
kind-
spend a
you
time-
mostly
a lot of-
use French.
use probably, I want to say 85% of the new wood we're buying, and we're probably buying want to say 50 to 60%, maybe more new wood every year on a just a blanket statement. Now, we might have some wines after we taste them after fermentation, we'll say, oh no, that could handle almost all new oak. And if we know what it's destined for, maybe one of our really high-end Cabernets and it can handle it, just tasting it, we can tell, then we'll throw more new wood at it.
Wow.
And then it just sort of incorporates itself right into the wine.
Yeah, definitely an ingredient.
You talked baseball.
Yeah.
So you know a little bit about baseball.
Love
How are
baseball.
you at hitting a curve?
Uh-oh.
Well, I never really got to the point where I saw many curveballs.
Well, we're gonna throw a little one at you right now.
All right.
I believe you think I just opened a Cabernet Sauvignon,
Because you did.
but in fact, I opened a Red Mountain Petit Verdot.
Oops.
I don't think it's an oops.
Well, I meant to grab Cabernet, but I guess I didn't.
So,
There.
There are upsides of the dark on dark, and then there are downsides of the dark on dark.
That was
Shelley,
definitely
I'm
a
not gonna
curveball for sure.
I'm not gonna let you pour this out, Shelley, because this is too good to pour out.
Okay.
So it's a 2019 Petit Verdot. And this brings up a great question. How many different grape varietals are you growing?
So we, in our own estate vineyard, we grow Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Malbec, Petit Verdot, and Cab Franc. And then we make all those different as separate individual varietal wines. And then we make blends of those varieties as well.
So we're
And
talking
all-
SKUs.
Yeah, like close to 20, 21.
Wow. Wow.
So, and we talked earlier about the wine club and the advantages of being in the wine club. So we'll have releases just from a whole release just from our estate vineyard. So it isn't just, okay, we make an estate Cabernet, we make 3 estate Cabernets. So now we're to the point, we're not just making Cabernet, we're making a Cabernet, and you're buying certain clonal Cabernet from us.
Mm.
So we make 3 different Cabernets separated by the clones that they're made from. And I never thought I'd see the day, but people are really into it. Like they have their favorite Cabernet clone.
Their favorite clone.
I think that is fantastic. You know, the people up in Alaska have made bank on their Copper River salmon runs. And sometimes a little push is all you need to get something, a lot of people behind something, and good for them for loving this clone versus this clone on this block, right?
Yeah, and so we make, I want to say 5 different Cabernets from Red Mountain. So we have to talk about what makes them different from each.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the site makes them uniquely different, but now we're talking on our estate where vines are right next to each other, and the clone is the real deciding difference.
Right. Again, another aspect of the terroir,
Right.
It's the clone.
And they're so distinctively different that
That's
people
fascinating.
like the fact that I can tell the difference, and this is my favorite.
I just think that's fantastic. Hashtag cheersing. Sorry, it's tradition. A Petit Verdot.
Yeah, so it used to be. There's kind of an evolution of Petit Verdot at least in my mind, where we used to buy it. It was simply only something that you blended just to help something along.
Yeah.
But as time has gone on and we've learned to grow them differently, first of all, but not only that, but then how do you handle things in the winery itself to sort of tame them a bit? We've learned a lot. And so we make a Red Mountain Petit Verdot, and then we also make Petit Verdot from Ciel de Cheval Vineyard on Red Mountain. And then it becomes a huge part of our blend from our estate vineyard as well. So every blend that we make, we try to make them uniquely different from each other varietal wise. So our Seal de Cheval vineyard blend will be different than our estate vineyard blend and different from our quintessence vineyard. And today we do have, the last one we're going to taste is a kind of our blend that we make first of all.
Kind of your signature, right?
It is our signature
Yeah.
wine, right?
The Optu are your signature wines.
Correct.
Is it OPTU?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
where does that come from?
Well, you know, Fidélitas
Yeah.
is a Latin term, so Optu is also means optimum.
Oh,
Yeah, in Latin. Yeah. So we try to stick with that a little bit. Even our wine clubs, different wine clubs have sort of Latin terms. Magna, one of our clubs' names is Optu, and
Yeah.
so
This particular Petit Verdot is very easy drinking. Unlike many Petit Verdots that can, because it is a more of a blending grape, can come off maybe a little harsh. It's got to be blended with something to soften it, seemingly. This is very soft.
yeah, and that's one of the things that I've learned over the years, and kind of going back in particular to my time at San Michel, like when you see that many grapes and that many fermentations in a short period of time, you could kind of evolve the styles that you want to see. And that's one of the things that we found out early is you really have to monitor fermentations, and what you do during fermentation is everything. You make 90% of the wine that you make is in the 7 to 10 days of fermentation.
Wow.
yeah.
So you got to be on top of it.
Yeah.
And you have to taste multiple times a day. And I make every decision still to this day on how long our fermentations are, how long our pump overs are, along with my team
Yeah.
in the cellar. We meet at 10 o'clock and taste every morning at 10 after the first pump overs are over, and then make a decision. We think there's like little 8-hour windows that you got to hit. Otherwise, you're going to lose that wine.
How many of these tastings, and by the way, this is the work behind the romance of wine.
Yeah.
Okay, but how many before your palate is blasted? Because you can't just, sure, you're tasting and spitting, but your palate can only take so much.
And it's different then too, because remember when we tasted during fermentation, it's a mixture of alcohol and sugar. So it's a little bit easier in some aspects, but we're also waiting until we know that there's a window that we might want to press off. So it isn't the first 2 or 3 days of fermentation.
Mhm.
It's after that. And so we'll go through and taste, I want to say 20 to 30 wines and spit, definitely. And then maybe taste them as we're pressing them off. Sometimes in the morning, I'll come in at 5 and taste before I write the pump over list. They pump over, and then the other winemaking staff comes in because they're stay later. And then we'll taste at 10 and then make decisions for the day.
Can you explain what the pump over
So a pump over is,
process
so
is?
if you think about a fermentation almost like, it's almost like a tea bag, and the part, the tea itself is these skins that have raised
Okay.
to the top and formed what we call a cap within the fermentation. So if you can imagine in a tank that's got 5 tons in it, the cap raises, and that cap is 2 feet thick,
Right.
and it's all grape skins. And if you think about it, that's where all the color and the flavor is trapped within that. So
And the tannins.
and all the all the flavors. So
Right.
you're trying to extract that color and flavor from that cap. And so you have to you can do it different ways. So you can take the juice from the bottom and then pump that back
There's
over the top,
or you can
and
punch
then
down.
you can punch it down.
Yeah,
You can
got it.
you can drain the whole tank and then
Well, that sounds
then
like a
put-
process.
put the juice back in. That's called a rack and return. That's also things that people do, but I've done this long enough now. I can like taste the tank. I know there's 3 tons in that tank. Let's pump this over early in the fermentation, maybe 6 minutes on a 3-ton fermenter because I'm trying to, for my own style, trying to extract a certain flavor profile without the presence of alcohol. So I've picked up little things like that over the years, and I don't really have any secrets. I share this
No.
readily with anybody that wants
Sure.
to know.
But, what's really interesting is you learn about making wine in school, but you learn about making wine by making wine. Because,
no.
you're going to learn what you like from your experiences.
Right.
And those are the things that are hard to teach. Like, it's gonna be hard for you to teach your son how to take that over, because he's gonna have his own.
Yeah,
No,
we have a team of people, and you think about, he came back to this, doing this full time not that long ago. He's like, I don't know how much I really know. Well, you've been in the cellar since you were 12 or 13.
Right,
You know more than you think you know,
exactly.
because I forced you to work on the bottling line when you were a kid.
Yeah,
You
and
just-
cheap labor, I'm just saying. Labor laws don't apply when it's family.
Yeah, they do now, but but no, it just but then we also have a guy that does day-to-day winemaking. He's been with us since 2011. So he knows exactly, he knows exactly what we want, what we're trying to do. And he kind of leads the charge a
Yeah.
lot now too.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's great to have him on board, and he buys all the barrels and all that kind of thing too. So definitely a team effort.
Has to be.
We have a great team of winemakers. We have a great cellar staff, that all contribute in their own way. We also we have a business of sampling grapes. So if you have a sample of grapes, you're kind of trying to figure out when to pick them, bring those tests, and we provide analysis so we can do 80 to 100 samples on a big day and get that data and information back to winemakers by the end of the day, so they help them make decisions on what they might do.
Is this your Wine Boss
It's
brand?
part of Wine Boss.
Yeah.
It also gives us a sneak peek at every
Competitor out
sample.
there.
Well, not only competitors, but
I
also
love
just
that.
we get on the schedule first though. So I can look at the numbers before we release them and call the vineyard owner and, put us on the schedule for Wednesday before I send that to my buddies. But, really, a lot of times I'm calling them and giving them the numbers before they get them, or,
Right.
I'm moving bins for somebody, or can you run over to this block and taste for me? So
I think that's awesome.
we're competitors, but we're really not.
The Mondavi model.
Yeah.
No,
Just
it's
kind
awesome.
of,
Everyone-
yeah.
We're gonna take our last break. Shelley, our last break. You gotta wrap it up. And when we come back, we're gonna taste their final signature red.
Okay.
Yes.
Welcome back to Wine Time Fridays, where we are talking all things Red Mountain and Fidélitas. And why are we talking about Deuxième Partie?
Well,
Because this is Washington Wine Month, Deuxième Partie.
part two, because the first one was March.
March. Now we have a chance to redeem ourselves because we
We
never
didn't do any in March.
did anything in March.
We're still a young podcast, Shelley. We can't know it all right off the bat.
It's been 3 years. You're just making sure.
Yeah, it's funny because our fourth wine that we had out of our flight of 5 tonight was a bit of a curveball. Charlie with Fidélitas thought he had brought a Cab Sauv. He actually brought their 2019 Petit Verdot, which was fantastic. I believe it was a great mistake.
Mhm.
That's me. But he's checking out the bottle and make sure this is the red Optu, which is another of their signature wines. Really what kind of was at the beginning of this, right?
Yeah, so the first vintage we made wine was 2000, and I was able to get a little bit of fruit from Weinbau Vineyard and my friend Miguel Rodriguez, and we made just a blend of Cabernet and Merlot, and blended it that first vintage. And then, so this wine is the only wine we've made every vintage that Fidélitas has been in existence.
Yeah, that's nice to have that consistency.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this would be the 21st vintage, since we started in 2000. So it's more recently, it's always been cab based, although I think a vintage or two it's been Merlot based, but this is cab with a nice good percentage of Merlot. I think it's 20% Merlot, and then it always has Petit, Verdot, and Cab Franc.
So
Rarely is it ever. Yeah, true Bordeaux blend.
Yeah.
And it's always cab based. And really it can be anything we want it to be, but this is kind of what I choose
right.
for it to be every
Right.
year.
Where I keep waiting for that winery to throw a little Carmenere in there and say it's still a Bordeaux blend.
Yeah, and sometimes I think, and those are choices people make. I don't like Malbec in it oftentimes because a little bit of Malbec can sort of steal too much. Like you taste it or you smell it, oh, there's Malbec in it, and it might be less than 5%, but it's there.
Well, and on most Bordeaux blends, you're gonna have left bank or right bank, which is the Merlot driven or Cabernet Sauvignon driven, with the other three to kind of, in certain levels, balance that and blend that out. We don't have to have those rules here.
You can choose.
You can
Right.
choose. Choosing
Choosing. One more time.
our silly little traditions.
And this is also a wine that we kind of, kind of draw it from all different parts of the mountains, so that we might have Cabernet from our neighbors at the canyons, and we might use some estate Merlot if we need it, or Sille de Cheval Merlot, or it just can be from anywhere and everywhere on the mountain.
Each vintage of this Optu is different, completely different from any other vintage.
Right, it's
There's
never
no
the exact same percentage. Yeah.
I love that, because that really puts premium on the vintage. It's not
Yeah.
the Kendall Jackson deal where you're just kind of rolling over all this, to keep that consistency. Every one of these vintages is going to be a little bit different based off of the blend and the vintage and the grape and all of that. I love that.
They can definitely see where it's concentrated. There's a certain tannin level there with this. Definitely would stand up to a lot of, big food.
Yeah.
Definitely red
This is
meat.
wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, this is really good. I'm not gonna lie, all of these are fantastic. I didn't drag out our Wine Time Fridays
That's all right. Don't drink. it.
ratings, but all
It's
these are
phenomenal.
phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
they're all
We have our own
they're-
rating system.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's the Wine Time Fridays rating system. It's catching on.
It's catching.
Or not.
Right.
Charlie's had about enough of us right now, or me.
So in 2012 that's the year you made a Cabernet completely sourced from your own estate, right?
Yeah, the first vintage that we did make cab from our own estate. And at the time, we only had about 3 acres planted. Now we have 12. So we chose, we have 3 different clones, and we've chose 2 of the 3 clones to use, clone 2 and clone 6. And to this day, we still make our original. We make 3 different Cabernets, but the original cab that we make, our estate, we call our estate Cabernet, is still from those 2 acres of Cabernet. And we planted the vineyard, I want to say in 2008, when we lost the vintage because of we had a bad winter, and so we didn't get a crop, I think, in 2011. So we waited a year and then did it in 12.
Do you ever have too hot of a summer?
We've had those summers where it's a struggle, definitely.
Yeah.
The big one I think that everybody remembers is 2015. And I say that there's more recent vintages where we've had the extreme heat too. But the wines are a little, I think they're real show young. They're real pretty, and but they're not going to age out very well in their cellars.
Yeah.
Generally, the natural acids are pretty gone on them. And so they're nice. And that, I mean, that's the beauty of wine, right? That it's not going to be the same every year.
I mean, that is the beauty of wine.
Yeah.
I love that.
Otherwise, like you mentioned, big producers, but always say, well, like if we're making orange juice, we want to be consistent
That's
year to year, but we're
one
not.
way of looking at it.
We're not. So
That's right.
let the vintage sort of give us what it's going to give us. And
Yeah.
it's never the same, which is so great. And, we're farmers still and talk about the weather all the time.
Yeah.
And I've kind of gotten to the point where, oh, it's cold and we're way behind. And, oh, wait, we had great weather. Now we're caught up. And now what's going to happen now? It's like, we always seem to get there, around Labor Day, we're going to start really getting serious about picking grapes and
Checking the bricks.
yeah. And so it always happens. We make wine every year.
It never goes away.
Yeah.
That's funny. I would love to know what it was like working with the Antinori family. Because they've got their hands seemingly in a lot of different
Yeah. So
areas.
they came over in partnership with Chateau Saint Michel and we made actually 2 vintages together, which became the first 2 vintages of Colsolari. Trying to think it was 94 and 95 or 95 and 96. I can't quite remember, but we had the chance to work with their winemaker, and he still is their head winemaker to this day, Renzo Cottarella, and he still has a say over what goes on in Colsolari. It was a great experience. I was working with Mike Janik at the time, and of course they came in, and it was so great for them to look at our wines, see what they were like, and then go ahead and help us put blends together as well.
The learning behind that.
The learning
too, right?
was fabulous. I will say this, and I don't know how many people really know this, but I thought about this when I saw your notes today. Actually, a joint venture almost happened the year before the Antinori joint venture, and nobody really talks about it anymore. But Alan Shoup, at the time, had a lady that he was close with in Bordeaux, Madame de Lancassagne at Pichon Lalande, and we actually almost did a joint venture wine with Pichon Lalande, and from the 95 vintage. We actually met with their winemaker, put the blend together, and that was also a great learning experience because their winemaker came over and spent, I want to say, a couple weeks with us. I mean, we dug him holes he wanted to look at the ground, and then it was interesting because he was French, but he was half Vietnamese.
Interesting.
Yeah, his name was Thomas Dochinab. So we got that exposure as well. It never came to fruition because they couldn't come to any agreement. It eventually became they called it ethos. They had a whole line that they built from that. But that was a great experience as well.
Can we just say that the French now respect wines that the States are producing?
Yeah, I would definitely say that.
I mean, we're talking about these. You talk to Opus, those 2 giants getting together to create an Opus, and really from the fruit from Napa, they brought some over from France, but all of these little collaborations and you just spoke about that,
I would say also the other one that I think is probably even more important domestically. I mean, it's always important because the French are, they originated so much of what we do, but to have the Californians who think very highly of themselves and their Napa Cabernet.
Really?
I'll just say that. But for them to come and really embrace Washington in a lot of different areas in Washington and tell me things like, oh, Red Mountain reminds me so much of Howell Mountain that I can't get over it, so it's that, and we're just seeing like almost like an onslaught of more and more Californians coming because you can still buy things relatively
I
inexpensive.
hope that
Shelley?
doesn't happen.
Shelley, do you have something to say over there?
We have a secret we can't say online.
Oh, is that right? Was that off air?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes, we can't. We'll have to touch on that after we stop the recording or we're gonna get in big trouble. But yes, this is good because where Mondavi wanted everyone to, yes, competitors, yes, but if one of us does well, it brings everything up.
But we don't want all those Californians over.
Well, it
No,
would
it's-
prefer that, you know.
It's okay. It really, it only makes us better, I think. The other thing I like to talk about and I don't say this trying to be arrogant about everything, but think about how young we still are. I mean, really,
It's
first-
absolutely true.
the first vines on Red Mountain, which by the way, we get some of, planted in 1975. So a lot of those vines are older than most Napa because they've had
Yeah,
to replant, right? Because of phylloxera.
yeah,
But still, more than half of the vines on Red Mountain are new since 2015 because we got water,
yeah.
and then so we've gone from 1,200 acres to like 2,500 acres now.
That's doubling.
And
the
so,
acreage.
our estate wines, they're new from that water that we got in 2015. And I was thinking like, we're just gonna get better whether we want to or not, just because the vines are gonna age.
Well, and you also have a passion behind it that you want to see the evolution and the growth. And you have to have that
Yeah.
aspect also. So this is so cool to be tasting through these Red Mountain wines because we don't drink a lot of Red Mountain in our house. They're starting to come out to where you can
Yeah,
find
there's
them
enough
more.
of them, yeah.
Yeah, so this is fantastic. Again, a small little AVA that's just packing a punch. The Red Mountain AVA has had respect from early on. They've
Right,
had the
right.
respect. That's just getting them out there into the public.
Well, I mean, there's a good example. There's probably, I want to say, less than 20 wineries on Red Mountain, right? I would say conservatively that there's at least 400 wineries buying fruit from Red Mountain. At least 400.
Yeah,
I know just from the Shaw Group, they have at least 100 customers. And I don't even know how many Kiona has.
yeah,
Those are the big growers on the mountain. I'm talking people come like, I want my 2 tons of Cabernet to make my big Cabernet. And they do that consistently every year. There's very few people just doing everything from Red Mountain like we're doing.
but it's good because it's your eggs are in different baskets.
Yeah.
And so sure, we're gonna sell this some of these grapes, but we're gonna mix some ourselves. And Shelley's giving me she's keeping me on. Shelley,
We have a very long podcast.
well, with guests comes length. And we have that, which is good. Some of the wines we had this week, Shelley, you want to zip through that?
You always give me the ones with the hardest things.
Well,
to do.
because you speak better than I
I
do.
don't, and especially I can't see.
See without your glasses.
Venedos Escuerdo Vidal, Ramon Bilbao, Grand Reserve Rioja, Domaine de Palu, Massange Rouge Chanel,
Mhm.
and Basil Cellars Claret.
That was easy to
And
do.
then a Genic Chardonnay.
Yeah, we did have a Jack Chardonnay
Nice.
this week. We did that on purpose as a nod to Mike. Because I knew we would want to bring that up.
Coming up,
Coming up, what do we got coming up, Shelley? Can you read these?
International Prosecco Day on the 13th, National Pinot Noir Day on the 18th, National Red Wine Day on the 28th, International Cabernet Sauvignon Day on the 30th, which is the Thursday before Labor Day.
That happens every year, yeah.
Yep, and National Chianti Day on the 1st of September,
Yes, do you remember?
the 21st.
Yeah, well, first is there somewhere. Big thanks to Charlie. What's so funny? What did I miss?
I knew what you were doing there. I know those lyrics.
There's a part of me that says I should hope so, and the other part is like, but why? Okay, so we both grew up in, all of us probably, in the age of disco, which is a blessing and a curse. So I wanted to just kind of wrap this up this way, because there was something on your website that I really liked. Is Charlie quit his job to become a winemaker before it was cool to quit your job and become a winemaker. I really think that encompasses everything, because these trends, people jump on trends, and you still have to know what you're doing. So don't jump on a trend if you don't know what you're doing and going to see it through. The other thing is, from engineer to winemaker, I like that. It kind of goes along with our Games to Grapes series in a sense. Next week, we are probably breaking out Prosecco or two.
Okay, Prosecco Day.
Prosecco, it's coming up. I believe we've hit on everything. Charlie, I want to thank you for making the trek over from Red Mountain to us here in Coeur d'Alene, and ultimately Hayden, to do the recording. But he said, any excuse I can get to come to Coeur d'Alene, I'm good with. So I appreciate that.
No, we like coming up here. It's a nice break for us from the heat of the summer, and it's only about 2.5 hour drive, really.
Yeah, it's not so bad, but it seems like it's tougher for us to do it because we're juggling kind of a few things. Not that you're not, but your son, you said. Yeah, you said your son is running a lot, which has got to help that.
Yeah, I know we have a new tasting room in Woodinville.
Yes,
It's and that's a big focus for us. It's huge. It's right in that that Red Hook area. So we're right next to Long Shadows. Our neighbors will be Andrew Lotta on one side, and then at the end of the building will be Mark Ryan, and then the same complex as Sparkman and DeLille. Right across the street from San Michelle.
So you're working on getting Chris Sparkman and his Sparkman Wines on. If he remembers me, that'll be great. We're working on getting DeLille and Greg Lill on, because those wines are great. D2 is one of our very favorite. I believe Passing Time is around that area as well. Damon has got a...
Yeah, Damon is in kind of the warehouse district.
Yep.
And his wines are made by Chris Peterson at Avenia.
Coach for the Huskies for many years. No, we're not going to do that.
Same guy.
Thanks to our sponsors today, 3D Kitchens by Design, the Social Web, Bottle Joy, really the Social Web, that's us. And of course, CDA Gourmet, which we are happy to have them on as a sponsor today. And with a little bit of knowledge, we give you a lot. Overwhelming amount of knowledge. Wine becomes a lot less overwhelming. Thank you for joining us today. Charlie, thank you for making the trek. And we will see you next week on the Wine Time Fridays podcast.
Goodbye.
Thank you for spending part of your day to wind down with Shelley and Phil. Remember, you can listen to any episode of the Wine Time Fridays podcast by visiting winetimefridays.com or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us on our Wine Time Fridays Facebook page, Instagram, or on Twitter, which is @VintageTweets, for daily conversation. Until next week, here's our toast to you, to health, wealth, abundance, gratitude, peace on earth, and of course, romance.
One hour.
Not quite.
I think it's over that.
Not quite.
59:54 on the recording.
Plus 28.
Oh.